Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. What we're going to be doing today is we will be looking at our 2024 college football week 5 predictions and best bets. So we just had our predictions come out for our top 25 teams yesterday. So go check that out. We will have their best bets coming out tomorrow. But we're going to be focusing on the other matchups for week 5, looking at all the games, breaking them down, seeing who we think is going to win, what we predict the outcome will be, the final score, the money line, spreads, and the over-unders. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Every week we go over every single NFL game, and we also do the same thing for every college football game every week. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you can follow along with us. So we're looking at our other week 5 matchups, some of those really big matchups that are just outside of the top 25 teams. These are teams that were just in the top 25 or will find themselves back in the top 25 soon. Let's go ahead and get started kind of running through these games, looking at them and trying to predict the outcome and looking at the betting portion. Our very first matchup we have on Thursday at 7:30. September 26th, 3-0 undefeated Army coming in here. They'll be visiting 1-3 Temple on the road. Army has an 82.3% chance to win this game. They are 13.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 45.5. When you're looking at Army, we know what Army does. They run the triple option. They run the ball down your throat. They run on almost every single possession. They probably only throw the ball maybe 5-6 times per game. They're going to run nonstop. That sucks up clock. That also keeps the ball out of the other team's hands. They don't have very many opportunities to score. Army can go on an 8 to 10 minute possession drive down the field, running down the clock. They average 34.3 a game. Solid defensive performance this season. They're only giving up 9.3 points a game. For Temple, they're having issues scoring. They average 19.8 points a game. They give up 36.5 points a game. They give up 222 rushing yards on the ground. The Army's going to have a field day running the ball. They're going to run right down Temple's throat. I have Army winning this one, probably running for 330 yards, but they'll win 33-17. I have them covering that spread, and I will be going with the over here. This next game is a really tough one to pick at 8 p.m. This is now on September 27th. So on our Friday slate of games, we have Washington Huskies at 3-1 visiting 3-0 undefeated Rutgers. Rutgers is really making their case to break into that top 25, but if Washington wins this game, beating a really good Rutgers team, they could also find themselves in the top 25 when the Week 6 poll comes out. Rutgers has a 50.9% chance to win this game. They are 2.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 44.5. This game is a 50-50. This game can go either way. Washington lost to Washington State, but they've actually had a pretty solid season so far. They were decimated in the offseason. They lost Kalen DeBoer, they lost Penix, they lost Odunze, they lost almost their entire team either to the NFL, seniors, or the transfer portal. Fish comes in. He brings in Will Rogers. They have really worked the portal hard. They've been recruiting. Solid team. They're averaging 27 points a game, throwing for 305, running for 165. Great defense so far. They're only giving up 10.3 points a game, fitting right into the Big Ten here. For Rutgers, Greg Schiano, hard-nosed, tough coach, physical, at the line of scrimmage coach, disciplined team. Right now, they're averaging 39.7 a game. Also a solid defense, only giving up 15.7 points per game. Rogers can sling the ball. They're going to try to sling the ball, but Rutgers is going to look to bottle him up, get a good pass rush going, try to force him into some mistakes. This game is so hard because I could see this game going either way. It would not surprise me in any way whatsoever, but I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. The game will be decided in the trenches, on the ground. Both teams can run the ball. Washington has Coleman. He's closing in on 400 yards. He has 4 touchdowns. Rutgers, though, has one of the best running backs in the country. I can never say this guy's name, Menanje. He's closing in on 500 yards. He has 5 touchdowns. Both teams have wide receivers. Washington has Jackson. Rutgers has Miller. Will Rogers can win this game. He's experienced, obviously transferring over from Mike Leach's system at Mississippi State. But I think it's going to be Rutgers that wins this one at the line of scrimmage, winning this one 23-17, covering the spread, but I'm going with the under here. But like I said, I don't want to be anywhere near this game because I could see this game going either way. We're now moving on to our Saturday games at 4 p.m. We have 3-1 UNC coming off of a god-awful loss. That was pathetic. Some people are now calling for Mac Brown's job. Slow down, but you do have to say that was a awful, historically awful performance. They will be on the road versus 4-0 undefeated Duke, led by Manny Diaz, who's having a really good first year with the Blue Devils this season. Duke, they're the favorites here. They're 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 55.5. Mac Brown has his work cut out for him. He has to get his team's focus back on track. I don't know if they got caught looking at the Duke game, but they were curb stomped last season. This past weekend, they gave up so many points. That was a pathetic performance. I'm thinking they were looking at this Duke game, did not take week 4 serious. It caught up with them. They got shellacked. How do they rebound? Is he able to get their mind back on track, back on their main in-state rival here? UNC, they have a 42.9% chance to win this game. Duke, a 57.1% chance to win this game. Duke, Manny Diaz, he is a defensive guy. They have a tough physical defense. They work the portal hard. They brought in Murphy as the quarterback over from Texas. He's closing in on 1,100 yards. He has 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. UNC, Max Johnson got knocked out to start the season. They've been going with Criswell, so they don't really even have their starting quarterback in. But they do have Hampton, one of the best running backs in the nation. He's closing in on 600 yards. Duke has Thomas. He has 314 yards rushing. Both teams have decent wide receiver cores. Duke has more, though. He's closing in on 350 yards. UNC, they can move the ball. They average 38 a game, but they give up 29.3 points a game. There will be opportunities for Duke to score. Duke's a lot more balanced here. They average 30.8 points a game. They give up 15.3. Obviously, Manny Diaz will always have a good defense. I have Duke winning this one at home. UNC limping into this game. The Blue Devils win it 32-24. That would be covering the spread, and that would also be just barely going over. Our next game at 12 p.m. on Saturday, we have 3-1 Maryland versus undefeated 4-0 Indiana. A lot of people are upset that Indiana's not currently ranked right now. They have a 67% chance to win this game. They are 7-point favorites. The over-under is 54.5. Both teams are having success moving the ball and scoring this season. You have Maryland coming in here. They average 34.8 a game. Indiana, a whopping 50.5 points per game on defense. Both teams are playing solid defense so far. Competition has been light, but they've been beating teams the way you're supposed to beat them. Maryland, they give up 16.8. Indiana gives up 9.3. This game has potential shootout written all over it. Maryland, they have Edwards here as the quarterback, closing in on 1,200 yards so far, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks. Indiana has Rourke coming in. He's also closing in on 1,100 yards. He has 8 touchdowns. Both teams can run the ball. Both teams have good wide receiver cores. The best one, Felton on Maryland, 604 yards and 5 touchdowns. Indiana's defense will be looking to focus on him, shut him down, try to keep this game on the ground. Both teams can score. Both teams can throw the ball. Maryland, 317 yards per game passing. Indiana, 291. Both teams can run the ball, but obviously Indiana runs for 225.5 yards per game. Both teams, very balanced offenses. This game could go either way. Could come down to the last possession. Could come down to one turnover in the fourth quarter. I have Maryland winning the upset. I have them winning this one 33-30, and obviously that spread not getting covered, and I'm going over. Then at 12 p.m., we have 3-1 Nebraska. They're no longer in the top 25, but they're just outside of it. Potentially, if they win this game, they could catapult themselves back into that top 25. They'll be on the road versus 1-2 Purdue. Nebraska has a 79.5% chance to win this game. Pretty big spread here. They're 10-point favorites. The over-under is 28.5. Nebraska. Dylan Raiola, true freshman quarterback. He had a couple iffy passes, but he showed his promise, how high his ceiling can be. Nebraska fans, you at least have this guy for 3 years. You have a very bright future. You have a very easy schedule this season. You could sleepwalk to 8 or 9 wins still. He's closing in on 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 2 picks. Purdue has Card having a very solid season, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks, but Nebraska has the better young offensive roster. They have Raiola, they have Dowdell, they have Nayor. Purdue is still having some issues consistently moving the ball on offense. Nebraska averages 31.5, Purdue 25.7. Nebraska, they have that physical defense that Matt Rule is known for. He's building this team foundationally from the floor up, stocking this team, getting a heavy roster. They give up 12.8. Purdue gives up 34.7. There's going to be opportunities to score here. I have Nebraska winning this one in a lower scoring game, 28-17, covering the spread, but I will be going with the under. Then at 12 p.m., we have 3-1 Western Kentucky on the road versus 3-1 Boston College, knocked out of the top 25. But them, just like Nebraska, they want to win and potentially find themselves back in the top 25. But this game's pretty lopsided. Boston College here at 88.9% chance to win this game. They are 12.5-point favorites. The over-under is 55.5. Western Kentucky, they're usually known for their air raid offense, but not so much this season. They're only averaging 26.5 points a game. Boston College averages 32 per game. Boston College has Bill O'Brien, first-year coach with Boston College this season. And on defense, Western Kentucky gives up 26.3. Boston College, solid defense. They played Missouri down to that final minute. They're only giving up 14.8 points per game. Boston College is the favorite here. Very, very balanced offense. They pass for 199.5 yards a game. They run for 191.5 yards per game. They can beat you passing, running, defense. Solid performance under Bill O'Brien, first year with this team. They are led by Thomas Castellanos. He's closing in on 800 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks, but he's known for his legs. The guy can run. He had 900 rushing yards last season. I have Boston College winning this one 30-20, not covering the spread, and I'm going with the under. I think Western Kentucky gets some garbage points, and that's what closes in on that spread. Then also at 12 p.m., we have 2-1 NIU, just lost, got knocked out of the top 25, but they still have that upset win versus Notre Dame. But they had their chance in the top 25, and they lost it. They're on the road here versus 2-2 NC State, who's not having the season they thought they were going to have. NC State here, 58.9% chance to win this game. They are 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is 46.5. NIU should be favored by so much more, but things have not worked out offensively or defensively for this team. This was a team that was supposed to compete for the ACC this year. That's not going to happen. NIU, they averaged 30 per game. NC State, 28.3. And on defense, a very physical NIU team that dominated Notre Dame at the line of scrimmage on both sides. They give up 17.3. NC State gives up a whopping awful 37.8 points per game. This is a team that's known for their defense, for their line of scrimmage, for their physicality. Not so much this season. So Grayson McCall, he's banged up, he's beat up. We don't know when he's coming back to play. They've been rolling with Bailey, young freshman quarterback, fresh legs. The guy can throw, the guy can run. They are coming off of that Clemson game where they got beat down, but they got a lot of garbage points. They can score sometimes in garbage time. They should still have the talent advantage over NIU. But this game's probably going to be sloppy. It's probably going to be close. But I have NC State winning this one 23-20. Very close. Not covering the spread. And I'm going with the under. But just maybe Bailey will hit the ground running and they'll get an early lead. I could see them covering it, but I need to see a better performance from NC State first for me to buy them. Then at 12 p.m., we have 3-0 Navy on the road here versus 1-2 UAB. UAB, 50.2% chance to win this game, but Navy is the Vegas favorite. 3.5-point favorites here. The over-under is 57.5. This game has a very close matchup written all over. It's one of those games that Navy's trying to go to continue the undefeated season, but this game seems like one that they could not be taking serious, that they could drop. Navy, they average 47.7 points a game. Very up-tempo offense here. UAB, they average 24.7. Both teams have pretty similar defenses. So Navy gives up 25.3. UAB gives up 24 points a game. Navy, they love to run the ball, but they will pass the ball. So they're throwing for 170, but they're running for 307.3 yards per game. When you can successfully run, you suck up the clock, keep the ball on the ground, have long possessions. They're going to run this clock down. They will be able to score. UAB doesn't have a great defense, so there will be opportunities there, and they're giving up almost 200 yards per game on the ground already. And now a team that averages almost 310 comes to town. I have Navy winning this one, running on UAB, winning 38-24, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. Then at 12 p.m., we have 2-2 USF on the road versus 2-2 Tulane. Tulane, a 72.1% chance to win this game. They're 6.5-point favorites. Over under 64.5. Vegas has this being a high-scoring shoot-'em-out game. USF, this is a really tough game to predict because even though Tulane has a 72.1% chance, I could see USF winning this game just as easily. To me, it's 50-50. Both teams can move the ball. USF has shown that they can punch over their weight class. They took Bama to the fourth quarter. They played Miami close the first half. They got curb stomped second half, but that's just because they don't have the roster depth that those big teams have. Their only two losses were, as of right now, to two top 7 teams in the nation. Had they played two garbage teams, they would technically be 4-0 right now. Don't forget that Tulane, Fritz is gone. They lost a lot of their roster, but they showed how competitive they are this season. This is a team that can successfully score. Both teams have good quarterbacks that can use their legs. Brown, Mensa. Both teams can run the ball. USF loves to run the ball. They love to go up-tempo. Right now, they're averaging 32 a game. Tulane, 34.8. And on defense, USF gives up 29.8. Tulane gives up 25.3. Both teams have very balanced offenses. The big issue for USF is they give up a lot of passing yards. They're giving up almost 298 passing yards per game. There will be opportunities for both teams to score. Could come down to final possession. I'm going to call upset here. I have USF winning this one 37-30. Spread not getting covered, but I'm still going with the over. But this one could also go either way. These teams are basically evened. Then at 3:30 p.m., this is going to be a fun one. We have 2-2 TCU coming off of that beatdown from SMU. They're on the road here versus 1-3 Kansas. Kansas, a 60.8% chance to win this game. They are the favorites, 1.5-point favorites. Over-unders 59.5. This game is virtually a pick 'em. This is also a very evenly matched game. TCU, they have the offense. They're averaging 38.8 points a game, throwing for 372.8 yards per game. They run the air raid under Sonny Dykes. They can move the ball up and down the field, but they're giving up the points that they're scoring. So they're giving up 32 per game. Kansas State, they're really not that better off. This is a team that was supposed to have the best offense in the Big 12, a top 30 offense, top 40 defense, very well-coached team. They had the pieces. Right now, things have not worked out at all for the 2024 season. They're averaging 28.3 a game. They're giving up 20.3. They have the better defense. They have the bigger names. Daniels is healthy at quarterback. He's having the worst season he could have possibly had. That's what's hurt them this year. They should be undefeated right now, but Daniels has been throwing picks. He's been overthrowing balls. He's been underthrowing balls, but they still have Neal at the running back position, one of the top 5 running backs in the country, closing in on 500 yards and 3 touchdowns. But TCU can move the ball vertically through the air. Hoover, he has almost 1,500 yards through their first 4 games, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. I flip-flop back and forth. I'm going to go TCU having the ball, final possession, going down the field, scoring a touchdown, winning this one 30-26. Spread not being covered. I am going with the under. I could see the same thing happen at Kansas. It's just who's going to have the ball last year. I want to go Kansas too. It's just they've burned me this year, and I have no faith in Daniels till I see them actually have a complete game on the field. This next one's probably one that we're all going to be watching at 3:30 p.m. 3-1 Colorado Buffaloes on the road versus 3-0 undefeated the USF Knights. USF has a 82.1% chance to win this game. Massive favorites here, 14.5-point favorites. The over-under is 63.5. Vegas has being pretty high scoring, but when you look at the stats, you see why. So Colorado comes in. Their offense isn't lighting it up as much as last season, but they still have a lot of issues. They still have a good offense. They showed when they need to move the ball down the field, they can move the ball. When they were down to Baylor, Shedeur Sanders hit Travis Hunter. They were able to get down there, score a touchdown, especially at the end with the Hail Mary. They're averaging 26.8 points per game. But UCF, this is their year in the Big 12. They're lighting it up. They have Gus Malzahn. They have KJ Jefferson. They're averaging 45.7 points a game on defense. Colorado is actually improved over their awful defense from last season. They're only giving up 23.5 points a game, but UCF, they're giving up 17 points per game. Colorado loves to throw the ball. They're throwing for 360.5 yards per game. They still cannot run the ball. Until you can consistently run the ball, you're going to have issues trying to win versus these teams. If the Knights win this game, I see them being in the top 25 next week. Right now, they throw for 201. They run for 375.7 yards per game. Colorado gives up 151 on the ground. There's going to be lanes. UCF is going to attack Colorado on the ground, suck up clock. They're going to get massive gains, which is going to open up the passing game for KJ Jefferson to find Hudson, hit him. But Colorado still has Shedeur Sanders. They still have Hunter. There will be opportunities there. Look for them to get some points in garbage time, but I have to go UCF winning this one, 37-20, covering the spread, and I'm just barely going under. At 3:30 p.m., 3-1 Fresno State on the road versus 3-0 UNLV. UNLV, they are 3-point favorites. Over-under is 49.5. Both of these teams will have no issues scoring the ball. Both teams have good offenses. You have Fresno State coming in here. They average 35.5 points a game. UNLV, they average 40.7 points a game. Both teams have pretty decent defenses. Fresno State, they give up 20.3 points a game. UNLV, very solid defense. They're only giving up 13.7 points per game. Fresno State loves to throw the ball with Keene. They're averaging 287 yards through the air. UNLV loves to run the ball. They're averaging 293 yards on the ground. Both teams have opposite philosophies, but both teams can score. This is going to be a high-scoring game. This is a close game. This is also one of those 50-50 games. Could go either way. I'm going to go with the team that can run the ball consistently, but I would not be surprised if Fresno State won this game. Like I said, they both have decent offenses. Whenever you have two people that can score, it could come down to that final possession, but I have UNLV winning this one 30-23, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. At 7:30 p.m., 1-3 Middle Tennessee on the road versus 3-1 Memphis. They're coming off of that loss to Navy. They weren't able to keep the momentum going after beating Florida State in Tallahassee. Memphis, this is a huge spread here. They're 26-point favorites. The over-under 61.5. That spread kind of threw me off. That's a pretty big spread there. But Memphis has a 93.3% chance to win this game. Like I mentioned, 26-point favorites. Middle Tennessee, their offense leaves a lot to be desired. They're only averaging 18.3 points a game, and they have one of the worst defenses in the country. That's why the spread's so big. They're giving up 42.8 a game. Memphis, they average 35.5. They give up 21.3. Very successful passing game. They're averaging 289.3 yards per game. They have the quarterback. They can throw. Decent offense, rushing attack. They can run for 152.3 per game. But look at Middle Tennessee. They're giving up 357 yards through the air per game. That perfectly fits the way Memphis wants to attack you vertically through the air. But they can also run the ball because Memphis, they average 152 on the ground. Middle Tennessee gives up 150 on the ground. So they'll be able to throw the ball. They'll be able to run the ball at will. I have Memphis winning this one 33-24, but not covering the spread, and I'm going with the under. That's just a really massive spread to me. And our second to last game at 8 p.m., 1-3 Florida State. What an awful performance this season. They dropped down 0-3. They were top 10 to start the season. They finally got a win versus Cal, but it was not impressive at all. An awful game, but a win's a win. Never apologize for a win. They'll be on the road at 8 p.m. versus 3-1 SMU. SMU has a 71.4% chance to win this game. They are new to the ACC. Florida State, who was the ACC power, they don't want to drop this game to the new team, to their conference, but SMU's the favorite. They're 5.5-point favorites. The over-under is 48.5. Florida State has one of the worst offenses in the country. DJU cannot vertically throw the ball at all. I've been saying that for years. The guy can't throw, and he actually seems to be getting worse year by year. They only average 15.0 points a game. Their lauded defense, it's good, but it's not what it was supposed to be. They were supposed to have the best defensive line in the country this season. Well, They're giving up 20.3 points a game. SMU, they've been shuffling quarterbacks. They have Jennings, they have Stone. No matter who starts, they'll be able to move the ball here. SMU, they average 42.3 points a game. They gave up 22.8. Very balanced offense under Rhett Lashley. They pass for 211. They run for 206. Florida State's going to want to run the ball. They're going to try to keep the game on the ground. DJU, he's not going to be throwing vertically at all. Dink and dunk the whole time. They're going to try to win based off of their defense, run game, and special teams. But SMU, they have a high-powered offense, and Florida State is not equipped for any shoot-'em-out games. I have SMU winning this one, getting their biggest win in the ACC, winning 35-24, covering the spread, and I'm going with the over. And our final game is going to be one of the most entertaining games of the weekend. At 8 p.m., we have 3-1 Cincinnati on the road versus 3-1 Texas Tech. Texas Tech has a 57.5% chance to win this game. This just feels like one of those games Texas Tech is favored in that they usually lose, but they are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 58.5. Cincinnati, solid team this year. They are coming off of shutting out Houston 34-0. Right now, they average 31.5 per game. They give up 16 points per game. Very solid defense. Texas Tech, very high-powered offense this season. They average 41 points a game. Their defense is atrocious. They give up 32.8 points per game. There will be opportunities for Cincinnati to move the ball, get first down, score. This game is going to be a high-scoring, shoot-'em-out game. They'll be running the ball. They'll be throwing the ball. Cincinnati, they throw for 278.5. Texas Tech running this air raid. They throw for 328 a game. Both teams can run the ball. Cincinnati runs for 197.5. Texas Tech runs for 168.5. Both teams are going to be able to move the ball at will. Both teams have offenses. Both teams are going to score. I see a really high-scoring game second half. Slower first half, and then they just light it up second half coming right out the gate. When you're looking at the quarterback matchup, we have Sorsby for Cincinnati closing in on 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. Morton for Texas Tech has been lighting things up. 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns. This game could come down to Brooks. He's one of the best running backs in the nation, closing in on 400 yards. He had a great season last year. They haven't fully used him as much this season, but that's because they've been able to successfully throw the ball. If this game comes down to the wire, last possession, they want to run that clock out. Look for Brooks to get a lot of looks. I have Texas Tech winning a close one here, 33-30. That's a push as of right now, but that line could come down by the time that we get the kickoff, and I have them going over. But this is going to be a really fun, close matchup. So that's our breakdown of our other matchups for Week 5 of the 2024 college football season. Hit that like button and subscribe. And if you have any comments, drop it below, and I'll respond.